Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TEPSA Presents. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership here at the Texas Elementary Principals and Supervisors Association. We are thrilled every month to bring you some hot topics with some of the leaders in the field across the world to share some of their brilliance with us to help us get better every single day. And I'm so excited, guys, about today's conversation. I feel like this is something we do not talk about enough. As school administrators, so often we focus on the academics and the content and the discipline and the PD that we forget how important our front office staff is as well. And so when TEPSA thought we needed to have this conversation, we knew we had to reach out to Brian Stevens at CASA. Brian, thank you so much for being here. Introduce yourself for our audience.
Well, yeah, I appreciate it, Todd. And it's always fun to see you. And I love the energy from these presentations. And I've actually learned a lot from watching your past videos. So thanks for that.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, I'm Brian Stevens, and I'm kind of a weird creature. I guess I'm a lawyer and a psychologist by trade. But I'm a recovering lawyer. So I've seen the light. And I've come back to the good side, I guess. But our company, CASA K-12, started off years ago running issue campaigns and crisis management for public schools. And one thing that we learned is just like you said, Todd, people are the principals and teachers are there to train the children, and that's your job. That's your main focus and should be your main focus. But we live in this competitive environment now where our students are going to charter schools and private schools and home schools and other district schools, and we need to compete for them. And we need to start treating them, the parents, more like our customers, like they're on our team. And so our company actively recruits students back to public schools. And we do all this customer service training, a lot in Texas, by the way, to help you all find more joy in the workplace. And I think that's our goal, to help you find more joy.
I love it. Well, Brian, today we are talking about 5 tips for our front office team. And so I can't wait to learn, because I know that there's always an area that we can grow in. We're all working with a lot of personalities in that front office, so it looks different for everyone. But let's start with tip 1. What's your first tip that you have for us?
Well, it sounds kind of weird, right? But like everything I'm going to talk about, I think, Todd, is I really try to train people on being authentic and real instead of professional. And I want people to be professional for sure. I don't want them to act, crass or anything like that, but authentic and actually connect with these human beings that are on the other side of these desks from you and these countertops from you. And to realize that, you get a flight that gets canceled. You're on American Airlines or Delta and it gets canceled, and you're sitting there talking with somebody that you hope's on your team, right? You hope that flight attendant's on your team, that customer service person is on your team, trying to help you find another flight. And what you don't want them to do, Todd, is to say, well, you got to fill out form DD3-2 and you've got to call this number and you got to do this and you got to do this. You just want somebody to be with you and real, even if they can't necessarily solve your problem. You just wish they would try to authentically connect with you and not lean on some sort of policy as a way not to connect with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I love that you use the word authentically, because that's something I've been talking a lot about too, because people can read right through you being fake, and they know right away when they're being manipulated. Like for me, when I'm working with a customer service person and all they're saying is, I'm going to get this fixed for you, but I can tell it's just a quoted line. They don't really mean it. I'm like, I'm so frustrated right now, and you're not making me feel better. So I love that you use that authentic word.
Yeah, so you're not really connecting with another human being. And so this kind of turns into my second tip for today, right? Which is, why is it us versus them? Why aren't we their advocates more? Why aren't we on the same team with the parents and the caregivers? And I know a lot of times you say we are, and when somebody's yelling at you or they're screaming at you because they're upset, it's hard to seem like you're on the same team. But I don't know I have a spouse. She yells at me sometimes. We're still on the same team, right? We're still globally trying to move forward together. And I think about, Todd, these groups called PTA and PTO organizations. Yep. It literally is in the name, parent teacher, not parent versus teacher,
right? Not
parent versus front desk. And I think people, once again, my theme is joy, right? Mm-hmm. Is that if you're a front desk worker and if you're a principal and you're training your front desk team, if they start to advocate and try to resolve problems for parents, I did say they can't solve every problem, but to the extent they try to advocate and authentically try to connect, it's going to take a lot of pressure and a lot of work off the principal, vice principal's desk, letting them do their jobs. And it also makes the front desk person feel more joy in their job because they get to resolve problems. But now this is tricky. That means the leadership has got to protect them and defend them when they're out there trying to make those tough choices. Yeah.
You know, you said 3 really great things there that I think really stuck out to me. The first was you made the comment of when the principal trains the front office team. And I think that's really big that I want people to make sure they hear, because I don't think a lot of administrators consider themselves as a trainer of their front office team. And I think that's a really powerful thing to remember, is that you're not just training the teachers in the classroom. You got to train that front office with what you expect and how you want things to come across. But the other thing you said was, just that idea of we're all on the same team. So my question for you is, what do you do when you've got a front office team member who doesn't exactly understand that concept of we're all on the same team?
Yeah. And so that's where training and constant reinforcement comes in. Right. And so you have to make this a part of your culture. And I was thinking about culture as I was prepping to chat with you, Todd. And I was thinking, what if your school, your middle school, your high school had the culture and it was, you all were a team. So every parent came in there and you just started, the fake it till you make it, right? Just start pretending like you're on the same team, acting like everything is on the same team. We're going to work to be on the same team with you, advocating for each other. Yeah, we're going to get frustrated. Yeah, we're going to get upset. But how can we get the visual to the front desk people that parent is tied to their future? And one way we do it is to talk about money. Talk about money. Front desk people deserve a raise.
Oh, yeah.
Principals deserve a raise. Teachers deserve a raise. But if our students leave and go to a competitive school, to a competitor, their money goes with them. So everywhere in the United States, the money follows the student. And so it will follow them right out the door. So if you want your front desk people to start acting like they're their customers, explain to them the math. 3 students leave. That could be as much in Texas as $25,000, $26,000 gone.
Yeah.
So you lose 6 of them, you lose a front desk person, or they can't get a raise the next year. So make it personal to them first, and then start walking the walk second, which is start treating them like their team. And that kind of starts pulling us into some of these other points, Todd. But I think you got to continue to reinforce they are our people. We're all on one team over and over again, and then show them the money.
Well, that money thing sticks. People don't forget that. So I love that. So we've got authenticity. We've got that we're on the same team. What's our next tip?
Well, this gets into the letting people vent sometimes. So it kind of ties right in what we were talking about. So if you know that somebody's on your team, they're your best friend, you let your best friend vent. You let your best friend complain and get it all out, their energy. You let some of your okay friends. Then why can't we let a frustrated parent vent a little bit, or even a frustrated coworker vent a little bit? Now, I did say complain, we talk about different people, right? So we have the lawnmower parents, right? The ones that want to mow down everything in front of their children, so they have no obstacles. And I talk about dragons too. The parent, not just parents, but it could be coworkers or friends that fly in, burn every good idea down, and then fly away when it's time to build. I don't know if I want to let them vent all day long, right? But I like to let the ones that have a legitimate reason, like their child. We just dealt with this. A child a 7-year-old wasn't eating for 2 weeks in the cafeteria. The kid got nervous and he went to the bathroom and hid. And the parent was legitimately frustrated, had every right to vent. You would vent if that was your child or your friend. You would vent. Letting them vent is don't try to take it. It's not personal. It's not them attacking you, front desk person, or you, principal. That's hard for people to disengage with. So we have to practice disengaging. And the right way to let people vent and to control it is to role play. Let people vent at you and then, think. Right. And then respond. And some of that stuff in my book is it kind of deals with that at a deeper level, but it's okay to people vent as long as they're not abusive, they're not cussing, they're not screaming at you. You don't have to tolerate that, for sure. I'm not one of those people.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great point, because there's a difference between venting and being abused by someone verbally. But I think you hit the nail on the head. That was one of the things that was really difficult for me to learn when I first became a principal, was that if you just let them just vent it all out, most of the time, that's the biggest issue. Once they can get it out of their system, they're like, okay, now I'm willing to have a conversation with you. But sometimes we want to jump in there and start solving that problem right away. We don't give them the time to vent, and then it just becomes a battle back and forth. So I love that point.
Yeah, Todd, it really ties into the first rule, right? if you're going to connect and be authentic with a person and not professional, you understand what it's like to be a human being. We all vent. We all get upset. We all can have emotions, and that's cool. Just try not to take it personal. Tell your team it's not personal, man. They may love you, and there's nothing better than to take someone that's upset, let them get through this process of venting in the correct fashion. You can have boundaries, of course, in the correct fashion, and then try to solve the problem for them. Try to be their advocate. The next thing you know, you've created a best friend. You've created a rabid supporter of you and the school. It takes some practice for sure.
Yes,
I don't know
it does.
well, but you know.
But you're right. It's funny to me how I can look back and remember some of those most upset families were the ones that ended up being a best teammate when we actually got together and actually listened. So I love that. Okay, what's your fourth tip?
Okay, so one of the things that we do see that occurs all too often is we get defensive. Somebody's venting. They got a valid concern. They're upset, and we circle the wagon, so to speak. Now, that's a term that some of the young people don't get, Todd, which is back in the settlement times, they circle the wagons as a perimeter against robbers and criminals and things like that. So they'd set up a defensive perimeter. And so what we do is we don't. The next rule is deal with the person harmed first, not yourself. And not necessarily the parent that's not harmed, not necessarily everybody else. But if you focus on the main thing, which is always the student safety, always, always, always. And I'll give you a practical example, right? So this was a mom that wanted to come and get her child out and was venting and angry. She wanted to get her child 10 minutes early from school, 10 minutes early. This was elementary school. The same time they're like lining all the children up and getting into the buses and getting into the right spaces. She wanted to disrupt that process. Why? Because she was being selfish and she wanted things the way she wanted them and she didn't care about other people. And that happens, right? So the term was, you let her vent. I want my child on woman now. I understand that, but our job is the safety of all these children. And we have to do what's the safest thing for all these children. And so we're going to do the right thing for the safety of all these children. You wouldn't want that. You don't want these children to be not safe to you. Well, no, of course I don't want the children not to be safe. Well, good. That's the reason why we don't let people, pick the children up, 10 or 20 minutes before or after busing. It's to keep the children safe. But all too often we become professionals and we say, well, the rule is you can't pick your child up 20 minutes early. And then they don't understand the rule. They don't understand the context. And you sound defensive and you're leaning on a rule, being professional, instead of connecting and explaining the content of the rule, which is, hey, man, we're going to lead on safety. Yeah. And the parents always go, I did it was a safety issue. I don't want to make my child and the other children not safe. Like, what if your child got lost in the mix? We can't have that happen. We're always going to focus on the main thing, child safety, number one, and then the child's success. And if we're always focused on that, like Todd, let's take this child that didn't eat, right? That's devastating. The harmed person was a child that didn't eat. Yeah. And working that problem out. Why did that? And I got really concerned about other children that may be missing. Like, not just if one child can skip a meal, how many else? Let's worry about them, Mom. Let's all get together and figure out how we can stop this harm for future children. And that's when the parent really got on and started working the solution. Yeah, we got to stop this happening across the board. And they actually discovered there was a few kids here and there that were doing this. And they created some processes that solved it for all the children. So if you focus on the person that's actually harmed, instead of your reputation, instead of your school's reputation, instead of the fact that you're being yelled at, you're going to end up getting through the situation smoother, faster, having more joy, and building a stronger relationship with people, for sure.
I love that. And people understand the safety thing. Like, you don't have to often go into even deep details with it. Whereas in the rules, that sets people off right away when you start talking about rules. But I love these 4 steps so far. So we've got authenticity.
Rules. I don't care about your rules. I want to be helped.
Exactly. Because all they care about is their kid and what they want in that moment. So the rules never matter. And that was a constant battle. But I love the 4 tips we have so far. So we've got authenticity. We've got that we're on the same team. We've got to let them vent. Don't get defensive. What's our 5th tip?
All right, man. So we had a tough time figuring out which 5th pro tip we wanted. I got a lot of tips. Yeah. And I thought about, well, do we say the 5th tip is you need to role playing practice? No. You guys can get to that. There's videos online that will teach you that. But I think that the next one is kind of a pro level one. All right. And it's, you really need your teammates, your front desk people, to discover the real issue, not the issue that the parent's complaining about. I'll give you an example. So a parent was upset they didn't get the year-end survey, and they were losing their mind. They didn't get the year-end survey. And they said, but we can send it to you right now and you can still complete it. So what's the problem? Well, the problem ultimately was she wasn't being heard and she was left out, and it was very emotional. So they tried to resolve it professionally, which is, what's the big deal? You can still complete the survey. We'll get your result.
Yeah.
They didn't address the harm, which is the emotional side. 80% of us are led by emotions. There's some engineers up there and that aren't, and my wife's one of them. But most of us are led by emotion. So if somebody can slow down and hear them vent and really listen to them and say, what do we want to do to resolve this? Because it's not just you getting the survey. We left you out of the survey.
Right.
Now that's tough. It's tough to do, but if people are programmed to start thinking and resolving problems, they'll start to identify those deeper issues faster, and you resolve those and you get through with a lot smoother long term.
Well, you said it's tough, but I think you also made a great point. That's where the role play and the practice comes in. Because if you think about anything in our careers, at one point it was tough, but because we've done it again and again, and we've had all that practice and solving it, now we're great at it. And so it's just like anything else. The more you practice at it, the better you're going to be. And so I think these 5 tips they're great, easy starting points for all of us in administration, where we can think about what are the things we want to cover with our front office. And if we just say, let's just start with these 5, like everything else, forget it. We're just going to start and we're going to work on these, or even if it's just 1 or 2.
One. Start with 1. I love 3% improvement. 3% is a monumental task. But if you can work on 1 for a few weeks, then add another one in a few weeks. I know it's not enough, but the role playing and getting people to practice in our training, that's what we do, a lot of practice sessions. Right. Get your team together for 5 minutes once every 2 weeks and practice a tough scenario and let somebody vent it. Let one employee vent to another one in practice and safety,
In safety, yes.
Dealing with it,
I love it. Well, Brian, I know that you also have a book out that covers some of this stuff too. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, well, we were doing this training for a number of years, and I'm like, we got to give them a rule book, a guidebook with all these rules in it. And so, yeah, we got a book. It's The Customer Is Not Always Right. I don't think people are always right. I'm not one of those people, but we sure do need them. But it's designed exclusively for public schools and the scenarios that they have to face. So
I love it. And I know for me as an admin, I love these webinars and I love video chats and listening to audio, but I love holding a book in my hand to flip through as well. So I love The Customer Is Not Always Right, Brian. So awesome. Well, TEPSA is so thankful to have CASA K-12 as a partner. So I'm so thankful for that as well. So Brian, if people want to stay connected with you or learn more, where can they go?
Oh my gosh, I'm not that guy. I think if you Google Brian J. Stevens on YouTube, you'll find our channel. I think if you say CASA, weird name, right? CASA K-12 on YouTube or LinkedIn, you'll find it. You guys will probably email it out or something. But I just like to educate. I like to help. But boy, that social media is beyond me sometimes.
I love it. Well, Brian, thank you so much for being a guest on here. And we hope all of you have enjoyed learning 5 tips for your front office. Go check out Brian's book. Go check out CASA K-12. And we can't wait to bring a whole nother conversation with you next month.